What's up, Gear Mortals? Trey Xavier here, and on today's edition of Gear Gods Quality Control, we're going to be taking a look at the lead 2-channel preamp pedal from 2 Notes Audio Engineering. The 2 Notes series of preamp pedals are some of the very best designed preamp pedals on the market today. And the reason for this isn't just the actual sound of the unit, which is very good. It has some extremely useful features built into the pedal that make live performance with this pedal and some of the other pedals that you can get in the series extraordinarily useful. Each of these pedals, as far as I know, is designed identically, with the exception of the kind of sound that you're getting. There's the lead, the crunch, and the clean, as I'm sure you can imagine what each one does. The features of these pedals that make them stand out in my mind are mainly having to do with the ins and outs and switching for live performance. Now, it's a 2-channel preamp, so you have 2 distinct sounds, even if all you're worrying about are the regular in and out and the 2 switches. You have basically a clean and a lead channel. But you also have a built-in loop, a DI output with a cab sim built in, which I presume has one of their cabs. I don't actually know which one it is. It doesn't say anywhere. I tried to find out. I don't know. But it's also got a headphone out, a cab sim on and off switch, so that DI could either be direct with the sound with no cab, and then you can send it into something like the Torpedo Live, or some other cab sim type of thing, or you can send it with the cab sim on. Possibly the coolest part, and maybe most important if you're using more than one of these preamp pedals, is the Midi in and out. So you don't need a separate Midi foot switch or anything to run these pedals. So if you connect a Midi cable from one to the other, they know what is going on. So when you turn one of them on, the other ones go off automatically. It's really cool. I'm going to show you that right now, actually. So I'm not going to actually demonstrate the sounds on the crunch today. That's going to be a separate video. So right now, all I want you to see is just that the lead is on. The little yellow light is on the lead channel. And then I push the button to switch to the crunch. Boom. This one goes off entirely. And then we're on to this channel right here. I could switch to this channel or this one, and then go back. Boom. I didn't have to do any kind of weird MIDI setup or no MIDI control sends and all that crap. Control numbers, whatever. It was set up and ready to go. All I did was plug a MIDI cable in from one to the next. So you could have on your board just 3 or 4 of these set up, all hooked in through MIDI. Each one of them has a loop pedal, so each channel could potentially have its own loop full of effects. So every time you step on it to change to that channel, it's just those effects. So you might even have 2 leads, and you could have one for lead and one for rhythm, and you could have your lead one set up with a bunch of delays and reverb like I've got here, and then the other one just to be dry. If you had 4 preamp pedals, that would actually be 8 channels that you could use. That's kind of insane for how big these things are, which is not very big. Of course, with the included effects pedals, that would make for a kind of a big board. But you could just have all of your effects pedals on the board behind your preamp pedals, because they'll just be sitting back there and you don't have to mess with them, and they'll go on in the loop when you turn on the preamp. So for all the stuff that you just heard, I've got the overdrive in front going in to the input of the lead, and then these 3 pedals, the TC Electronic flashback, delay, Hall of Fame reverb, and this little gate guy from Hot Tone or Hot One or Ho-Tone or however the hell you say it. So all the sounds that you heard are just that. I kind of wish that there was some way to assign the loop either to one of the channels or like an external button or something. As it is, as far as I know, it's just always on. But the fact that this pedal has a loop for your pedals is pretty convenient as it is, so I can't really complain that hard. So you can kind of use these pedals like a little control centers for your whole board, because you can have each one of them, if you have multiple, like I've got here, right? If you've got a couple of these guys, you can have each one not just be the 2 channels that it's got, but also, you know, with the effects loop, you can think of each one as a complete sound. It's almost like, you know how you can get like a looper pedal that has a bunch of different effects loops and you can just activate each of them or multiple ones at once? This is kind of like that. Each one, because it's got the loop built in and because it turns off all the other pedals when you step on it, you can think of each unit as like its own sound. So when you step on it, boom, there's that sound. For live performance convenience, that's pretty handy. You don't want to be doing the tap dance and have to turn on a bunch of pedals just to get one sound. You want to be able to dial it in beforehand, step on one button, and boom, there it is. So these preamp pedals have a feature that's called fusion, and you can either have cold fusion or hot fusion. Now, basically what happens when you go to fusion mode is you just turn on both channels at once. If you have it set to cold fusion, then it runs the 2 channels in parallel, so you hear them both simultaneously. If you run hot fusion, it takes channel A and it runs it into channel B, kind of like a boost. Now, it took a little while to dial in a hot fusion sound that I liked. I didn't find it to be super helpful right off the bat. You have to have it dialed in so that hot fusion or cold fusion will work the way you want it to. For me, I didn't really find cold fusion to be very useful because I never run parallel distorted and clean sounds. For the music that I play, that's just not useful. But that doesn't mean that it's not useful for you, for whatever style of music you play. I did find hot fusion to be a little bit more useful. Basically what happens is you use it as a boost. But the problem is, if you have it set up to be like a boost the way that you want it to be, then you're kind of setting up channel A to be just that and not to be usable as like a separate clean channel. So I kind of feel like rather than doing that, you might want to just have a separate boost pedal. The actual sound of the lead is a very Mesa Boogie style, sort of smooth and tight distortion. It has a lot of gain on board. Maybe not as much bass as I would like. Even when you crank it up quite a bit, it doesn't really have a whole lot of like earth-shaking low end. But that also might have a lot to do with the kind of power amp that you use. It is very much worth noting that all of the sounds that you heard in the demos, I'm not using any amp at all. So the lead is going straight into the Torpedo Live, which has both power amp and cabinet simulation. I'm using one of their built-in 6L6 power amp simulators and a Rosen Digital Atlantic Custom Cab Sim. In the demo I showed you a couple different sounds that you can get out of it. One straight into the Torpedo Live, another one just the direct cab sim out from the pedal, which sounds pretty good. There's obviously something lacking when you don't have a power amp or power amp sim going on. It gives it like a lot of heft that it's missing You know, a lot of that kind of low end, low mids, and just the feel of it is a little bit lacking. But in a pinch, it's better than good. It's pretty amazing that you could get that sound out of just a pedal like this straight into the board. It's really the functionality of the pedal that impressed me the most. With just 2 foot switches, you can get 5 different possible sounds out of it. Bypassed, channel A by itself, channel B by itself, cold fusion, and hot fusion. That's a lot for 2 buttons. You might not use all 5 sounds all the time, but it's fun to experiment with them and find some sounds that you would use. And I think you might be surprised by what you find. It's very important to note that the loop in the pedal actually puts it after the preamp section, but if you have it in the loop, when you bypass the pedal, it also bypasses the loop. So you could put something after the pedal in the path that will be on when you bypass the pedal, or you can put it in the loop and it'll be off when the pedal is bypassed. This kind of makes me wish that there was a way to make the loop either pre or post, which would increase the functionality even that much more. Once again, I find it hard to complain when there's already so much functionality built in, but that would really just push it over the edge for me and make it just right on. So in conclusion, a really, really spectacular design, really good sound, and just functionality for a live performance. So far, I think it can't be beat in terms of preamp pedals. I would love to be proven wrong, but so far this one might be tops. So at this point, aside from those small little improvements that I thought could be made that I said before, the only thing I could really want is another couple varieties of high gain amp. I would love to see, like, I don't know, an Angle or like a Bogner or a Rev style sound put into a pedal like this so that I could, you know, get a couple different flavors of high gain in my pedal board setup. As it is now, you could basically have this as almost your entire rig. You'd add a couple little things, you know, something like other 2 Notes products like the Torpedo Live or the Cab, which is like kind of like the Torpedo Live without the load box portion in like a stomp box size or a pedal board size. You could go ahead and just put that right next to this and like a couple effects pedals, and that could be your whole fly rig. It would be crazy. You could potentially even get away with not using a separate cab sim and just using the one that's on there and calling it good. Or if you just have a power amp and a real cab, boom, done. Done. That's all you need. So all around, I'm very impressed. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. For more information on the Preamp pedals, you can go ahead and hit up 2-notes.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more reviews and original content. Le lead, of course, is French for the lead. The lead. The lead. The lead is French for the lead. It's red because danger!
It's got a tube in it, which makes it sound warmer, because everybody knows that tubes sound real warm. Warm tube sound. You don't want it to sound cold and digital, so put a tube in it. It's got a tube in it, so it sounds real warm. It even feels warm, because you can feel the sound, which is warmth. It sounds warm and feels warm. Warm. Tubes. Digital. Tubes.
Pretty convenient to just by itself. Land the fucking plane, Trey. Land the plane. Sound of the lead. The lead. Maybe you could, I don't know, have 17 loops. How many loops does a pedal need? Today I'm here to talk to you about something that I get asked about all the time, and that's pedal order. The order of effects in your signal chain is a very personal thing. Nobody can tell you how to do it the right way because there's no right and there's no wrong. There's a lot of information out there on the internet, and a lot of it makes it seem like it's very, very cut and dry and absolute, and that is absolutely not the case. There isn't a right and wrong way, but I see a ton of people unhappy with the sound that they're getting because they don't have the signal chain set up in a way that is good for them. It's not going to get the sound that they're looking for. It's not bad or good. It's just not what they want. And part of that is because they have it in the wrong order for that sound. So that's something that we're going to address today. I've seen people drop a bunch of money on a new effect because they saw somebody else use it in their signal chain and they think it's going to be the magic bullet. And then they're disappointed because they don't put it in the right place in the chain to get the